but I genuinely believe anyone is capable of change. No matter what you have done, no matter the mistakes you have made, no matter the people you have hurt, no matter anything about your past, I believe you can change because I am just a walking example of that. Hey guys, welcome back to the vveydaa Mindset Podcast. So I already had a topic planned for this episode, but then I decided to do a completely different topic for this episode. I did not write notes on this topic, and I'm just gonna go off of anything that comes in my mind that I want to share with you guys. So for those of you who don't know, I have a twin sister, and I asked her what she likes to hear from me. What does she want me to talk about? And she told me that she wanted to hear me talk about shame. And immediately when she told me that, it made me feel uneasy because this is a really heavy topic for me. And me and shame know each other very well. I am very familiar with feeling this emotion throughout the majority of my life. And honestly, I realized that if any of you guys are similar to me, then hopefully this episode will help you work through this emotion and everything that comes with it. Because I didn't write notes on this, I'm probably going to be bouncing back and forth through different sides of this topic. So be prepared for me to, go back and forth from certain ideas. When I think about shame, it makes me remember all the times in my life where I wasn't the best person. I used to be a very selfish person. I was very impulsive. The decisions I made were to only benefit me and me only. I lacked empathy for people around me, and it got a lot of people hurt. I hurt a lot of people behaving in this manner that I used to be. And it's taken a lot of inner work to be able to finally change myself as a person, so much so where I'm able to admit my flaws. I'm able to come in here and talk to you guys and help you work through all of these things. One of the biggest things I learned with myself was that I deserve forgiveness and that I am capable of change. And this is also something not everyone is going to agree with, but I genuinely believe anyone is capable of change. No matter what you have done, no matter the mistakes you have made, no matter the people you have hurt, no matter anything about your past, I believe you can change because I am just a walking example of that. Like I said, in my past, I honestly did not like who I was. At the time, I probably had no care in the world, but looking back, I am very ashamed of how I was, the behaviors I did, the people I hurt, the mistakes I made. And it took a lot of self-reflection and accountability to change myself as a person. I struggled a long time with forgiving myself because I thought that in order to be able to change as a person, in order to become a person that I like, a good person, I say this in quotation, a good person, then I need permission from people I've hurt to tell me that I am forgiven. I thought I needed the validation from others so that I could change, so that I could prove that I was a better person. And now, being the person I am today, I do not think you need anyone's permission to tell you that you get to forgive yourself and that you get to transform. There's a lot of people, whenever they make mistakes, they feel like they need redemption. They need somebody outside of them to tell them that they are forgiven. And when you have that mentality, when you go through life feeling that way, it genuinely stops your growth. It doesn't let you better yourself. Because at that point, you base who you are on everyone else's experiences with you. You base who you are on everyone else's opinions of you. And it's like, even if you are changing and you are growing, you feel like you're not entitled to saying you're a good person until the people you have hurt forgave you. until the people you have hurt have seen you be a better person. But again, this is flawed thinking because the only opinion that matters is the opinion you have of yourself. The amount of change and emotional intelligence and growth that I've embodied, I could not have gotten here if I chose to chain myself to the opinions of everyone else around me. I could not get here by chaining myself to the forgiveness of other people. I had to forgive myself. I had to work through my own shame for the actions that I had done in my past. At the end of the day, it's night. Sorry. But at the end of the day, I genuinely feel like the decisions we have made, the mistakes we have made, the people we have hurt, the behaviors we have elicited, all stems down to our own trauma and our own insecurities and the way we were raised in our childhood, who we saw as a role model. And that's why I truly don't believe that these people are bad, if there's anyone that's like a bad person, because you are a product of your own trauma and your own insecurities. Yes, there does come a point that you have come face to face with your poor actions and that you have the opportunity to take accountability. And that is important. I think that you do have the responsibility to take accountability of the mistakes you've made and the people you have hurt and the poor actions that you have made. But I honestly don't hold people's bad actions against them because they do not know any better. And at the end of the day, they're making themselves suffer. People only know how to hurt others because they themselves are hurting. People who live with love within themselves would just not be able to inflict the same amount of pain as people who are living with so much hurt and trauma inside. To say someone isn't capable of change is basically stripping your own self away from any change that you can make about yourself, from any transformation that you can make within yourself. Because if you're saying, oh, that person's a bad person, they did this to me, they messed up, they're making horrible decisions, they'll never change, people don't change, what does that mean for yourself? Does that mean that you're stagnant, that you can't become a better person? Because that's ultimately what you're saying. This is why I have a lot of an easier time with forgiveness, because when people hurt me, it takes me back to the times where I hurt people so bad, where I was making such reckless decisions. I didn't care about anyone except myself and what I could do that will benefit me, which honestly left me burning everyone I touched. But now looking back, when I was acting that way, when I hurt people, when I was making impulsive decisions, that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with the pain I was going through inside, with the insecurities I had within me, with the trauma I had. And when you look at life that way, when you see people through that lens, it allows you to be more empathetic because you realize their hurtful actions has less to do with you and everything to do with them, and they are the ones that are suffering. I'm sure any of you who have also hurt people or who have done some shameful behaviors, you know yourself that it is solely because of your own insecurities and your own traumas that you are acting that way. Because the healed version of you would act completely differently. And that's where I was acting from. I was a very unhealed girl. I was a very insecure girl. I was very superficial in the desires I had. And now, becoming the person I am today, I look back at who I used to be and I had so much built-in shame. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I acted that way. I can't believe I was that type of person. Everyone probably doesn't like me. Everyone probably remembers me as that type of person, the version of me that was so unhealed. And that fear stuck with me. I hated living every single day, knowing that I was trying to better myself, but also knowing in the back of my head, people don't know this new version of me. All they know is the version of me I was to them. So does that mean that my growth right now isn't valid? Does that mean all the work I'm doing on myself right now isn't valid? And I'm here to tell you, all the work you're doing on yourself, despite people that you've hurt not noticing it, it is still valid. That's why I'm saying you don't need the permission from someone else for you to grow. You don't need their validation for you to feel like you're a better person today. The only opinion that matters is your own opinion. Do you feel like you're a genuine person? Do you forgive yourself for your past mistakes? Do you genuinely like who you are? Because these are the things that matter the most. Forget everyone else's opinions of you for a second. What do you think about yourself? And at the time when I was asking myself these questions, I didn't like who I was. So my only choice was to change. My only choice was to do better, to be better, to treat people better, to heal my traumas, to stop indulging in my toxic behaviors. Because once I did all of that, I genuinely started to like who I was again, and everyone else's opinions of me stopped mattering. When I genuinely came to terms with what I had done in my past, with the person I was, with not liking who I used to be, when I finally took accountability and came to terms with that and fully allowed myself to change, nobody can hold it against me anymore. I don't care what anyone has to say about me because I've dealt through it. I went through it. I forgave myself. So who are you to tell me otherwise? Who are you to tell me that I'm not forgiven? Who are you to say that? Everyone has skeletons in their closet, and no one is in a place to judge you. But we sit in this place of feeling like people do have the right to judge us, that their opinion is correct, that we can't grow and change unless they tell us that we have grown and changed. When you start bettering yourself and you start healing your trauma, you're gonna go through a period of guilt and shame, looking back on the version of you who is acting from all the unhealed parts about you. You're gonna start analyzing how you used to be. But if anything, I think that just proves that you are becoming a better person, because somebody who genuinely does not care about these things, who genuinely doesn't care about hurting people, doesn't feel guilt or shame. And that's the thing about reflecting on your past mistakes. You need to own it. You need to take full accountability for it and realize all of these things, they're just parts of you. They're parts of your experience. They're parts of your growth. You were just as lovable then as you are right now. I truly believe even at your lowest points, even with the poor actions that you have done, you were still lovable. You are still lovable. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all innately pure inside. I truly do believe that. Imagine yourself as like that little baby that you were when you came into this world. That pure, innocent baby, that is you. That still lives within you inside. And I think that's why people forget that the hurt we caused other people, the behaviors we have elicited at a low point in our life, it's not a true representation of who you truly can become. You are not chained to that part of yourself. You never were. Realizing all of these things has really helped me a lot, not harboring any hate for people who have done me wrong. In one of my past relationships, I was cheated on. I mean, I probably was cheated on in a relationship before that, but I didn't even find out. So I'm going to speak on the experience that I genuinely did find out while being in the relationship. And I'm honestly not ready to talk about the details of it. I know one day I'm going to have the bravery to talk about the details, but I guess just imagine the worst way of find out you were cheated on. And that was it. Anyway, when that happened, going through those emotions were really hard. But I do not hold any hate or resentment towards that person, because I know that they are solely just acting on their own trauma and their own insecurities and maybe the role models they had in their life. I did not take their action personally. I did not feel like that had any correlation to how much they loved me and how much they cared about me. And I know some of you guys are probably like, oh my God, that's so not true. Like, if they cheat on you, they don't love you. Let me give you a lesson right here. Literally, just based on psychology, the amount of love someone has for you has nothing to do with their behaviors from their trauma. People can love you so much, and if they have not healed deep wounds, if they have not healed their own traumas, they will continue to act upon their own traumas and their own insecurities. This is separate from the love they have for you. And I know that's probably really hard for you guys to wrap your brain around. And if you guys don't agree with me, that's completely fine. I'm not telling you guys that you need to take as factual everything I'm saying, but this is solely my opinion. And one of the biggest reasons why I feel this way is because when I was really unhealed and I was hurting people, it had nothing to do with how much I cared about the person. I cared about the people I hurt very deeply because my care for them has nothing to do with all of my insecurities and all of my unhealed trauma inside. It has nothing to do with the behaviors I elicit from that trauma. So when this person cheated on me, although I was hurt and I go through all the emotions everybody goes through, it was a lot quicker for me to forgive them. It was a lot easier for me to understand that their behaviors have nothing to do with me and everything to do with the unhealed aspects of them. And I know in the beginning of this, you guys heard me say, I think anybody is capable of change. Do I believe this person who inflicted this pain on me is capable of change? Yes, 100%. Like I said, I think anybody is capable of changing and transforming. I never look at people and the actions they inflicted on me and say, wow, you're such a horrible person, fuck you, you're a piece of shit, you're never gonna change. I don't operate that way. I don't think that about people, because how could I think that when I've also hurt people and I've become who I am today? It doesn't make any sense. How can I have changed, but everybody else around me can't change? Looking back on this scenario of this instance that happened to me, it really made me dive deep into my own past and my own history, kind of reflecting upon what the person who cheated on me could be feeling. And although they never admitted it, this is just gonna be me speculating and bouncing off ideas with you guys. Do I wish for the person who cheated on me to go on for the rest of their life feeling like they're a horrible person for what they did to me? No, I do not wish that for them. Sitting here in my perspective, I hope that person does change. I hope that person doesn't hold what they did to me as true to who they can become. I hope that person forgives themselves despite not hearing from me, because I did not go back, obviously, and I wouldn't go back in any instances of cheating. I would never go back. But I don't want my actions to make that person feel like they aren't worthy of their own forgiveness. I want that person to know that despite any of the hurt they caused me, they are still capable of change. They are still a good person. I do not hold people's behaviors that they have elicited from trauma true to who they are, because I genuinely think people act in ways that they just do not know any better, because maybe all they've known is hurt and pain. So that's all they can treat people with. And I'm able to think all of these things about this person because I remember the time I hurt someone. It wasn't in the sense of cheating. I know these things can be different levels. I didn't cheat on anyone, but I definitely have hurt people in my past. And I remember at the time where I would say maybe like the villain in someone else's story. And I wanted to change so bad, but I felt like, I couldn't until the other person gave me permission to view myself in a more likable manner. I just felt like until that person tells me I'm a good person, then I'm not a good person. And this is what I don't hope for you guys. I don't want you guys to think that you need to gain some sort of redemption from the people that you hurt. I don't want you guys to think that you need to be waiting on anybody else's word to tell you that you get to transform, that you get to like yourself now. Because honestly, if we're going that route, there are some of us who have hurt a lot of people. There are some of us who have done really shitty things. And there are sometimes, people that will never forgive you. Sometimes people will look at you and be like, you're a shit person, you suck. It doesn't matter how much work you've done, I don't forgive you. And because that person thinks that way about you, does that mean you're not a good person? Are you genuinely going to put your value upon their opinion of you? Because if you do that, you're in for a very long, painful life. Anyone who has wronged me, I never want them to go through life feeling like they need to hear me forgive them to feel like they're a better person. I hope that they do their own inner work. I hope that they come to like themselves. I hope that they heal their own trauma and realize that they never needed anyone else's permission to feel like they're a better person today. Because that is the lesson I learned for myself. Despite the person I used to be, I have come to realize I don't give a fuck. I have made amends with that part of myself. I have forgiven myself for my past mistakes. I have come to the realization that I only did what I knew was best with the knowledge and strength I had at the time. And I was acting from my trauma and my hurt and my insecurities. And I have made peace with that. All I can do today is learn how to be better, work on my traumas, not hurt people the same way, take accountability. And that is why I've been able to heal a lot of the shame and guilt that has come with this process of self-growth. Sometimes we don't end up being the person we are today without the pain and the hurt we have gone through in our past. Sometimes I have myself realizing, Veda, although you feel guilt and you felt shame for the way you used to be and how impulsive you used to be and all the behaviors you used to elicit, you would have not gotten to where you are today without all of that, without all of the pain and that season of my life. I would have never learned and become a better person today without any of those things. There's genuinely no perfect person. There is nobody on this earth who hasn't hurt someone. There is nobody on this earth who hasn't made decisions that they're not proud of. And we live in this society where everyone wants to point fingers at everyone. Everyone wants to condemn people for their past mistakes. And living in that theme of consciousness, it's like this judgment theme of consciousness. It's literally horrible for you because let's say you're the person that's judging everybody else. I know you judge yourself so hard. I know that you are so paranoid of ever making a mistake or hurting anyone because you think that that is the measurement of your value. And that's not the measurement of your value. You are innately valuable no matter what. You are innately valuable no matter the mistakes you have made, no matter the people you have hurt, no matter the decisions you have made in your past. And I think that's why it's really hard sometimes for people to admit the mistakes they have made. Because in order to grow, you first needed to take accountability for what you have done. And that is really scary. It's really hard to look at that version of yourself. You don't want to look at that version of yourself because you feel like it's a measurement of your value. And I'm here to remind you that it's not a measurement of your value. If we were to sit here and say the measurement of your value is based upon how many mistakes you've made and how many people you've hurt, that's the measurement of your value, none of us would be considered valuable. And that's not the case though. You are innately valuable. You are innately pure and innocent. I truly believe that. I think every human is innately pure. Like I said, the little newborn baby metaphor, we are all that newborn baby inside. And that is why you won't ever catch me trying to point fingers and judge anyone or condemn anyone or who am I to tell you that you can't change? Seriously, who is anyone to tell you that you're not capable of change? Who are they? Are they God? No, they're just another human just like you, who have their own mistakes, who have their own past, who have their own skeletons in their closet, who are villains in other people's story that they don't even know about. Sometimes we don't even know some of the pain we have inflicted upon people. We don't even know that we were the villain in someone else's story. And because of that, you're telling me that I can't be a good person today and I can't change? No, fuck that. You can change at any given moment. You are not tied to people's perceptions of you. You are not tied to people's opinions of you. You are not tied to the mistakes you've made in your past. You are not tied to the people that you have hurt and their opinions of you. You're not tied to any of that. The only truth is the way you feel about yourself. But you really need to establish that. You need to tell yourself, the way I feel about myself is my truth, and I'm going to live through that lens, because we can't live through everybody else's lens. If we did, there are just so many people that probably have problems with us that we don't even know about. There's so many people that don't like us. There's so many actions we have made in our past, and we can't live through the lens of everybody else's opinions of us, because then we would just never like ourselves. And talking about all this has also made me think about the duality of this perspective. So if you genuinely feel like you have the place to judge people, if you genuinely feel like you're in the place to say that people can't change and to say that, people's mistakes is true to who they are, then you will have such a hard time healing from your own shame and your own guilt. You genuinely won't be able to heal from your own shame and your own guilt if you are always condemning people for the mistakes they have made. I've seen this play out in myself. Like I said, the only reason I can offer empathy to people who have hurt me is because I have come to terms with my own shame and my own guilt, and I have forgiven myself for the behaviors I have elicited at my lowest points. And you cannot forgive yourself for the behaviors you have made at your lowest points if you are constantly judging everyone around you. The lesson I learned that was really able to help me through my shame and guilt was everyone is constantly changing and constantly growing. And everyone is only doing their best with the knowledge and strength they have in that moment. And just because people still choose to view you as the past version of you that hurt them, that does not mean you have to stay viewing yourself that way. That does not mean that you have to feel like that is true to who you are. And this is why it's so important to learn how to like yourself, to change into the person that you do like. Because if you do not like yourself, it's really hard to work through this shame and guilt and through who you were acting out of pain. You need to become a more healed person and genuinely like yourself, so you're not clinging onto the opinions of everyone else around you, so that you're not clinging onto the validation of everyone else around you, so that you're not clinging onto the permission of the people you hurt to make you feel like you're a better person today. If I was allowing people's opinions of me to mean that it is true, if I was allowing that idea, I would not be making this podcast. I would not be who I am today. I would just stay feeling insecure, stay feeling guilty, stay feeling shameful, and stay feeling like that is the only thing I'll ever become, how everyone else viewed me at my lowest points. But I didn't go that route. I chose to keep growing, keep bettering myself, learn from my mistakes, despite not hearing from anyone that I've hurt, despite not getting the forgiveness that I really felt like I needed to feel like I was a better person. Because there are times, like I said, you're not always going to get that forgiveness. You're not always going to hear from that person again, and you still can't stop that from letting you transform. Another aspect I would like to talk about in regards to shame, in regards to guilt, is maybe something happened to you where now it makes you feel ashamed. Maybe with this circumstance, you weren't in full control, but when you go through this, you start thinking back in your mind, well, maybe I do hold responsibility because I put myself in that position, and if I didn't put myself in that position, then it wouldn't have happened. And now you start blaming yourself for this circumstance that happened that has made you feel this shame. And I just want to tell you that it's not your fault. And despite anything that has happened to you, despite any of the pain that has been inflicted onto you, you do not have to hold on to that shame because you are still innately pure inside. I truly believe that. You know, I have a lot of sexual trauma that I'm not ready to dive into detail yet about, but because of this sexual trauma, I have cultivated a lot of shame and a lot of guilt from it. And in these certain circumstances, it wasn't completely my fault. And these certain things just happened. And because of that, you know, I live on feeling this certain way. And it is really hard. The sexual trauma, the shame and guilt that revolves around it is just so hard to talk about. I can even feel myself like, you know, tensing up. I feel like it's still something I'm working through. But given that, I always remind myself that I am still pure and I'm still innocent and I'm still worthy despite the things I've been through. And I want to tell you that you as well are still pure and innocent, and I don't want you to blame yourself for certain unfortunate events that may have unfolded in your life. And I find that with the personality that I have, I try to take the most accountability as I can. And doing that with this certain trauma is kind of not the best approach, because now you feel like you need to blame yourself and that maybe you should have known better. And I'm here to tell you to not go that route in your mind. I want you to understand that it's not your fault, and these things that have happened to you does not have anything to do with your own purity and your own worthiness. And I feel like it's kind of hard to get my point across on this topic because I'm not ready to share my experiences yet. So I'll probably use another topic that I could probably voice more upon. Let's say, for example, like I said, the cheating situation. Some of us feel really ashamed when we're cheated on. We feel this shame and guilt that comes with it when it had nothing to do with us. You know, we weren't the ones that did anything, but we still feel this shame. And I just want to let you know that in any circumstances where, you know, maybe you have been wronged, but it has this effect in you where you feel this shame and this guilt, I want to tell you that you are still innately worthy. You are still pure. You are still amazing. It has nothing to do with your value. And I don't want you to look down upon yourself for the pain other people have caused to you. No matter anything we have gone through, no matter any pain that has been inflicted upon to us by other people, we are still whole and worthy. And I know getting to this point in thinking takes a lot of time. You can clearly tell by my apprehension, I am still healing through a lot of stuff, but I don't want to let that stop me from relaying these messages to you. The whole purpose of this episode is just to relate to you that no matter what you have done, no matter what you're ashamed about, no matter what you hold guilt about, that is not true to how valuable you are and how amazing you can become. You are not chained to your past. You are not chained to the mistakes you made at your lowest points. You are not chained to the unhealed version of you. You have every opportunity right now to transform and grow and forgive yourself for what you have done in your past. And also to remember that you are worthy no matter what. You are worthy no matter any hardship that you have gone through, no matter any pain anyone else has inflicted upon to you. You are still worthy and you are still whole. Alongside the sexual trauma, I actually want to touch on this subject because I know I've had a lot of conversations with people that struggle with this, and a lot of people hold shame and guilt over body count and their sexual history and maybe things that they have done that they're not completely proud of. And a lot of people base their value upon this aspect of their life, and they hold a lot of shame and a lot of guilt for how they have acted in their past. And I'm here to tell you that your body count and your sexual history has nothing to do with how valuable you are. Like I said, and like I'll keep saying, you are innately valuable no matter what. It doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter how people perceive you. It doesn't matter about your sexual history. You are always valuable. Your worthiness does not change. There are a lot of people who, tell me that they want to turn a new leaf. They want to respect their body more. They want to, not engage in sexual activity like they have had in the past, but they can't shake off this feeling of unworthiness or this feeling of being dirty because of what they have already done. And if that person is you, if you're hearing this and you're resonating with this subject, I want to tell you that you do not have to stay feeling guilty or feeling dirty or feeling like you have to gain some sort of redemption because of what you have done in your past sexually. Let's say even in the sense where, you're not proud of it, you solely acted from the knowledge and strength you had in that moment. And if you're getting to this point where, you kind of want to do things differently, go ahead, do things differently. But don't let your past keep you from transforming. Don't let this past of you feeling guilt and shame towards stop you from feeling like you are worthy. Because like I said, despite having a past that you're not proud of, it does not mean that you are not valuable today. And it does not mean that you can't change your life and that you can't change yourself. I know for me, one of the biggest aspects of my sexual trauma has to do with my intensely religious household growing up. And because of that upbringing, I had this belief system of always feeling dirty, of always feeling unworthy if I had ever done anything sexual with a man, that men will leave me if I, do X, Y, and Z, and that I'm a slut and I'm a whore because I engaged in certain activity. And I can speak for myself on that. That is where a lot of my sexual trauma has developed from. Like, that is like the core of it. The religious aspect of it. Coming from that household and that way of belief really sent me into all this shame and guilt spiral for a lot of my life, where I would view myself as dirty or unworthy based upon what I was doing with my boyfriends. And it's just, it's horrible living in that way. And that is why I'm saying that your sexual aspect of your life has nothing to do with how valuable you are, despite the teachings you may have collected growing up. Because I understand more than anyone how detrimental that way of thinking is, I know for myself, I'll be completely honest, like I had gotten to the point where like I literally could not do anything sexually with a partner without feeling guilt and shame and crying afterwards because I feel dirty inside. And I even feel bad for myself just saying it out loud. I hate that that shame still lives within me, but every single day I'm healing through it. I am healing through that shame and guilt because, like I said to you guys, you are always innately valuable no matter what. It doesn't matter what you have done. It doesn't matter the actions you have taken. You are whole, you are worthy, you are valuable. I even recount the times where, to me, sex is really important to me. And I remember like one of the times where, I had given that part of myself to someone and then they ended up, ghosting me and lying to me. And it was horrible. And I felt really ashamed because what I had done, because of the part of myself that I had given. And I had gone through a lot of my life of feeling like, oh, I just wish I could erase that I did that. I wish I could just erase that body. I wish that I just didn't do that because I feel so disgusted with myself. I feel so ashamed and I feel so guilty. And a lot of that stems from my religious trauma. A lot of that, goes back to my religious trauma of like, if you do anything with a guy, like God's gonna punish you. And I'm like, oh, that's why he ghosted me. Like, I do not have that way of thinking anymore. And that is the most flawed way of thinking. And if you think like that, you are in for a life of shame and paranoia. Because, after cultivating that belief system, anytime I did something that was deemed shameful or dirty, I was just like waiting to get punished. I'm like, what's gonna happen? What bad thing in my life is gonna happen because of my action? And that is just the most horrible way to live. That is the most fear-based way to live. This is all a part of sexual trauma, and this is something that I am still healing. This is something that I'm still working through. And hopefully one day I am able to dive even deeper on the subject with you guys to help you even more. But I just wanted to bring it up so you guys know that you're not alone and that there are people that are going through the same feelings as you. I'm going to close this off now, and I just want to remind you guys that any shame and any guilt you have over your past mistakes or your past version of yourself that you're not proud of, you don't have to chain yourself to that anymore. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your body count. You are nothing that you deem to be shameful. You have only done the best you could with the knowledge and strength you had at the time. And this is something I tell myself all the time. This is how I continue to give myself empathy and how I'm so compassionate with myself and others, because I know that at the end of the day, people are only doing the best they can with the role models they had, with the trauma they endured, with the pain that has been inflicted upon to them. We are only doing what we know is best at that given moment. And that's why I don't judge anyone for the mistakes that they have made or for the pain they have inflicted upon me. Because who am I to judge? Who are you to judge? None of us are in any place to judge anyone, because at the end of the day, we have all made mistakes. We have all done certain things that we're not proud of, and we get to continue growing. We don't have to stay stagnant. We have all the power within us to transform at any given moment, no matter what anyone has to say about us. I know this was a bit of a heavy subject, and it was might have been a little bit messy just because I didn't have notes and I was just talking about anything that came to my head. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Follow me on my social media platforms. I will post them in the description. Give this podcast a 5 stars. Give it a like if you're watching it on YouTube. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode.